Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm kind of interested, I'm kind of intrigued about today's topic, which is about what everyday salespeople get wrong about selling. So this is an interesting one, and it came off the back of me asking my poddies what you actually want to hear about on the podcast and what kind of things that you want covered off. And one of the most interesting topics that came up was, Jess, what did actual salespeople forget about selling? What are the kind of things that they forget? And I kind of feel like people might assume that the things that salespeople or people who would describe themselves as professional salespeople or who've worked in sales for a number of years would forget are going to be like the advanced stuff, like the super secret stuff that apparently we never talk about. But the reality is that sales as a concept is actually really simple. And so the things that everyday salespeople forget are the basics, are the foundational stuff. And that's the interesting piece to me. So I'm going to run through a few of the topics for you today and just share what, from a background of sales experience, 13 years now in sales, which makes me feel really quite old. Really quite old. I'm just going to share what are the most common things that professional salespeople forget, and how you can change that in your business, how you can use and adapt some of these things. So if you are somebody who's like, Jess, I've listened to every single one of your podcast episodes, please don't skip past this one and go, yeah, well, it's just like the basic stuff. So, because I promise you that this is where the majority of money is lost. In most sales businesses, in most entrepreneurial ventures, it's the simple things, it's the foundations that we forget to do. And when we forget to do those things, actually, we lose the majority of our revenue. So, one of the things that I've seen over the last few weeks is that lots of people have come to me and been like, I need more leads. I want to spend more money on Facebook ads. I want to do this to attract these people. And, they go ahead, they do it, they spend the money. And then they come to me and I go, yeah, Jess, but I didn't make any sales from that. I spent like £200 on Facebook ads and I got nobody. Or I went out and I hired somebody to, manage my Twitter account. They sent me like a bunch of leads, but nobody converted into a client. And I'm like, this is not a sign that the market has become so saturated that nobody wants to buy anything anymore. It's a sign that you're forgetting the basic principles when it comes to sales and when it comes to the foundations of the sales piece in your business. Because generally what happens is if you get 100 leads and you go through the correct sales principles with them, 10% of those people should convert. Not instantly. Okay, so let's not think that they're all going to convert tomorrow, but 10% of those people should be actively buying, actively listening, actively following, actively referring you. And if that's not happening, then it's going to be one or two problems. Problem one is, are they qualified leads in the first place? Is it the right traffic that you're sending into your audience? And problem two is, are you actually, do you actually have a process in place that is going to convert those people? Or are they dropping off somewhere? And the reality is that for most people, it's very easy for new audience members to drop off in their sales funnel, no matter how simple that sales funnel might be, because they're not doing the basics when it comes to selling. They're not understanding, or they might be getting a little bit lazy and, a little bit kind of, I'm just going to sit back and relax because I made a ton of money this month, so all is good. And they're not necessarily being or acting with as much urgency when it comes to sales, when it comes to making money in their businesses. So those are the kind of elements that we're going to be covering off today and making sure that you are doing all of the basics that you need in your business to make sure that you're converting people into clients, that you're doing it steadily, that you're doing it consistently, and that you're not worrying about where the next sale is coming from. Now, before I dig into today's episode, I do want to let you know that my book is going up in price on Amazon. Amazon have emailed me and let me know that as one of the more popular books that they have, woohoo, it sounded really arrogant, didn't it? That's one of the more popular books they had. They are recommending that the price goes up by a grand total of £3 whole. So if you would like to grab my book, Smart Leaders Sell, at its current price, please make sure you go over and do that, as Amazon will be changing the price up within the next week, okay? The week, I should probably let you know that, we are now in the final week of May. Okay, so if you are somebody who's listening to this episode in July or June, or any time onwards from that, really, the book has already gone up in price, but you can still probably grab it. So if you want to do that, absolutely, I would love for you to go and grab the book. And if you haven't already got a copy, it is going to go up in price. It will go up in price over the next week. So please make sure you go out and grab a copy of that before Amazon does their thing. Obviously, contained inside the book are things like my own sales scripts and advice on how to run discovery calls, launch plans and how you can tailor them for your own business, buyer types and how you can identify whether people are going to be buyers and active buyers or whether they're going to sit back and never ever take anything from you, and also how you can define things like your own sales style, and a bunch of other templates and ideas and brainstorming and exercises in there to boot as well. So if you want to go and grab a copy of that off your run to Amazon, and pick up a copy before, like I say, they do put it up in the price. Now, the interesting bit today is that, obviously we're going to dig into the foundations of business not the foundations of business, but the foundations and the basic principles around selling. And I want everyone to kind of pull out a pen for this one, because there's lots of actionable stuff that's going to be coming up in this episode that I want to make sure that you really use and implement in your business that you may not already be using and implementing, or maybe you are and you're thinking, actually, I've got a little bit lazy when it comes to things like following up, for example, and you need to go and pop those into your calendar. In fact, as I'm recording this episode, I've got a little bit of pen. I've got a pen and a little bit of paper. And there are kind of a few things that I noted down when I was mapping out the episode and what I wanted to cover off, where I thought, actually, I need to go ahead and maybe check that process, maybe check that that's still working, and look at those statistics and things. So I'm doing it too, is what I'm saying. And there is no point as a salesperson or as a business owner who, needs sales in their business, that you should not be going back and kind of reviewing this stuff regularly to make sure that you are doing all the right things and that, you're not missing out or losing sales when you could be making life a lot easier for yourself. All right. So let's dive in. The basic principle of sales, and I would say the number one basic principle of sales that most people lose money on, and the biggest source of revenue loss, is not what you'd expect. Okay, it's not about, do I have a sales funnel that is 10 steps long that appropriately converts at every single stage? The reason that most people lose out on sales is because they don't follow up. Okay, now what I mean by this is not the odd, okay, this person hasn't come back to me on a discovery call, or this person, I'm still waiting on them to make a decision on XYZ program. It's that after the inevitable point of, let's face it, this person is not going to buy this time around, we then never follow up with them ever again. Now, when I was in the corporate world, there were lots of people who bought from me, and there were lots of people who didn't buy from me. But one of the most valuable lessons that I took away from corporate was that my boss would say every 30 days, as a minimum, you need to get in touch with those people who are your current buyers and be like, hey, anything else I can help you with? What's going on? How's life? Etc. And the people who are not your current buyers. So the people who are buying from your competitors, Now, when I was in recruitment, we used to call this X and Y, the X and Y process, okay? And your Ys were the people who had been working with other recruitment agencies, right? And they were the people who were working in other firms, and they were your candidates, right? Your potential candidates that you could then sell in and be like, right, do you want a job somewhere else? And so you call them every 30 days, like, how's your job going? Is it all going well? And you'd find out who's moving in the organization, who's the decision maker, who's, the stakeholder that I really need to be in touch with if I wanted to get in there as a recruiter. And you'd follow up with them every 30 days and ask those kinds of commercial questions that meant you were on the ball, because it was very likely that once their own recruiter replaced them, they wouldn't talk to them again. They'd maybe take them out for like dinner or drinks once to say like, congratulations and thanks for making me a ton of money. But that was it. Once that relationship was done, it was done. Now, I used to do this religiously. So I'd phone up other people's candidates all the time, be like, hey, how's the job? How's it looking? anyone leaving, anyone going on maternity or paternity leave, who do I need to talk to? Can you introduce me to anyone? And I used to do this so often that I've been out of recruitment for, I want to say 6 years, maybe 7. And I still, to this day, have people who message me on LinkedIn. They say, Jess, I know you're not in recruitment anymore, but is there any chance you know anyone at XYZ organization, kind of want a job there? Or, actually, Jess, no, you're not in recruitment anymore, but I'm recruiting this position. Any candidates that you still know? And there still are. There is still people I'm in touch with to this day. And the simple reason is that you don't really fall out of the habit. So it's normal for me to kind of still check in with people and be like, hey, how's that going for you? How's that working out? But also because I'm now on the other side of the fence, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe there are some organizations that I do want to go in and speak at. Maybe there are some organizations that I do believe could have better sales processes, and so for me, it's been a natural progression, and actually something that I really like is that people tend to keep in touch with me for a long time. And, I'm watching a lot of people who I recruited for jobs back in, 2011, who are now coming to me and being like, hey, Jess, that coaching thing, that looks cool. Who should I do my accreditation with? How can I set up my own business? Could you work with me to do that? And so it's like, oh, this is interesting. It's an entire life cycle. So I want you to be thinking about, how do you follow up? Do you follow up with your wives? Do you follow up with the people who went with other coaches? Do you follow up with the people who chose other programs from yours? Do you ever reach out to them and be like, hey, how is that going? How's working with my competitor? How does it feel for you? How is your business changing? How's your life changing, etc.? Or do you just kind of be like, oh, awkward. They're working with someone else. I never want to talk to them again. Maybe. But I would recommend following up with these people. Maybe not every 30 days, okay? Let's face it, the online industry does not change perhaps as quickly as the recruitment world, but it's a really good idea to keep in touch every so often with these people. Make sure that things are going well for them, and if they're not, that you are there, you're front of mind to take over, okay? And then when I was in corporate, we also used to follow up with our exes, which are people that we had placed, or line managers that we had good relationships with and that we were placing candidates in jobs with regularly. And again, this is something I used to do every 30 days. I'd ring up, hey, how's that person that I put in your organization getting on? Are there any other jobs that I can fill? Anyone else in the organization that you can introduce me to? Do you have any counterparts in, places around the country or internationally that I need to get involved with, or that, my business could be helping? Because at that time, when you're working for a recruitment firm, and I was working for some very large firms, they had different divisions. So I was looking after technology. I was like, okay, cool. But, I'm also aware that every business that has technology also has finance and HR and marketing and sales and all these kinds of things. And funnily enough, my business would help them place those individuals too. So, there was always an opportunity to build better business relationships, to take more market share. And I'd follow up those people every 30 days as well. Now, in your business, this looks like your former clients, okay? People that you're currently working with. Hey, how are things going? Is there anyone else that, you could refer me to? Or previous clients. Hey, how are things going? We haven't worked together in 6 months. What's up now? Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anyone that you could introduce me to? Is there anyone that I can introduce you to? Because let's face it, it's not all about you. One of the other things that I always used to follow up with people who were perhaps working with me, not working with me, had been previous clients, I wanted to be current clients, etc., was I'd follow up with them every 30 days with some kind of value. Hey, here's this report I just wrote about, technology changing in the retail sector. Or, hey, I just noticed that this person's come onto the market. You really liked them last time. Do you want me to put you in touch? Or, hey, I'm running a networking event for women in tech. I used to do these all the time and loved it. Would you like to come along? So think about, how are you following up? How are you bringing value to the market? What are you doing to stand out? What are you doing to make people associate your emails and your calls with good things, and wanting to do you a favor, but also wanting to get something for themselves too. Okay. So have a little think about that. The other thing that, salespeople forget. And this is another common problem with professional salespeople. So if you're a new business owner, do not beat yourself up for not doing these things. But another thing that you would really want to think about is your new business development. Okay. Now, in the sales world, it kind of, in the professional sales world, right? You get people who are business developers. That was always me. And those are the people who were like your diehard cold callers. They were there to, break through gatekeepers. They were there to break into new organizations and build relationships so they could take market share from competitors. Yeah. And then you'd have account managers. Now, there is a big divide between the two. It's kind of like rivalry when you get a football team. And account managers were there once the business developer had gone in, they built the relationship, they got the initial sales. The account manager would then hand over and they'd be there to take over that relationship moving forward so that the business development person could go out and build more new relationships. And the account manager would, look after the client, do everything that they need them to do, go for lunch there, and do all of these kind of follow-up activities and network their way around the organization. Okay, but they'd be responsible for 5 to 10 organizations. The new business person would be out there, doing new business development with probably 20 organizations a week. Okay, so it's very, very different, and it's different styles. And how you manage your business will depend on what kind of person you are. You might be a natural account manager. You might be somebody who's really, really good at, once you've built the relationship, nurturing it and increasing your lifetime value per customer, and using, one customer to produce other customers through referrals, and that kind of thing. Or you might be like me. I'm a natural new business person. And, generally when we think of people who are good at being good at business development, grammatically, that's terrible, but you know what I mean. Who are good at being good at business development, we think about people who are naturally more tenacious, who are perhaps a little bit more aggressive, who are okay with being told no, who are happy to cold call. Like, those are the kinds of traditional stereotypes we have of business development individuals. And that's cool. Not everyone is like that. I would like to say that I am not that kind of stereotypical. But I have my moments. I used to love cold calling. I'm very open about the fact that I absolutely adored cold calling. I thought it was really good fun. I thought it was hilarious that people hated cold callers. And I used to like to prove them wrong, and point out that actually cold calling could be a really good thing, and that they could build good relationships with cold callers. So, 2 sides to every coin, right? But when you're in your own business, new business development is something you have to take into consideration. And one of the biggest mistakes I see in the online world is that, we worry so much about what we're posting on Facebook. Are we updating our website? Are we rewriting our copy? Have we got that cover photo nailed? All this kind of thing. But we forget completely about a pipeline. Okay, we forget completely about, actually, how many new points of contact have I made this month? How many potential new clients have I connected with this month? How many people have I started to build relationships with this month? And we forget about those things because those things are potentially more uncomfortable. They're more out of our comfort zone than simply picking up the phone to an existing client and being like, hey, cool, what's going on with you? Do you want to spend some more money with me, maybe? Or putting out an offer to an existing warm audience, right? That's a lot easier in some ways, and we're a lot more confident to do that. We're a lot more confident to ask for referrals and things, but we don't always like going out there and thinking, okay, how can we connect with new people? How can we do that in a way that's transparent? How can we do that in a way that benefits both parties? So if it's something you're not doing, if you're not currently thinking about new business development, there are certain things you do need to be tracking. You need to be tracking how many potential new clients am I connecting with this month? How many discovery calls am I having this month? How many people am I putting myself out there to? How many magazines am I pitching myself to for PR? How many podcast interviews have I landed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So really start thinking about those things. When it comes to your business, when it comes to your pipeline, in order for your pipeline to thrive, and your pipeline is basically, okay, this is the potential money I could be making. This is the potential amount of sales I could be making. In order for that to increase steadily, you need to be visible. You need to be connecting with more people. You need to be having more conversations. You need to be building more relationships. You need to start thinking about, how are you doing that? What does your new business development look like? And if you're working with corporate companies, then actually in some senses this is easier for you to track, because you can go on LinkedIn, you can go, right, my new business development is I'm going to connect with 5 companies in my target market every single day. And I'm going to build out, relationships with those people. I'm going to connect with key stakeholders, etc. And if you're working with entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, then it really is down to tracking it correctly. Knowing, okay, how many people has my Facebook group grown by this month? How many people have I added to my email list? How many people am I communicating with daily? Now, if you don't have a way to track that, please, consider purchasing my Smart Leader Sell 90-Day Planner, because all of this stuff is contained in there and it will help you track it in a way that makes sense, and that is easy and simple to monitor. So if you haven't got that yet, you can get a downloadable copy, you can get a physical copy, it's up to you, or find some way of tracking it for yourself, because new business development is really, really important for the long-term success and sustainability of your business, right? The third thing that everyday salespeople, and the professionals always forget, which, surprises me, or that they don't do because they don't really want to look at it, is forecasting. Okay. And this is a really interesting one. So having been senior in the world of sales, I can tell you that every single salesperson is naturally very optimistic. Okay. And certainly when it comes to forecasting, we're all very optimistic. Yes, of course, that 20 grand sale is going to come in next week. Maybe. And so you'll find that a lot of salespeople naturally have very optimistic forecasting skills. And what that means is that forecasts are generally not accurate. And so a sales forecast, the basic principle or the basic understanding is it's the potential revenue that is going to come in. And it's the revenue that you are forecasting that will come into your business that week, month, or year. Now, generally what happens is that people don't forecast well. And so they look at every single conversation they've had, every sales call, every potential deal on the table, and they forecast it as that will happen. So what you end up with is a very optimistic forecast of, that's been made by somebody saying, yeah, every potential sale that's on the table of every value is definitely going to come in. Now, in life, that's not necessarily what happens unless you are the best salesperson in the universe. And even then, it's still not going to necessarily happen in the way that you expect. All right. So my rule of thumb, and the thing that I used to share in corporate all the time, was until a deal has been made, until the money is in the bank account, the sale has not been made. Okay. So until that money is in your bank account, that sale is not a sale. It doesn't matter if the client has said, yeah, I really want to do that. It doesn't matter if you've sent out a contract to them. Until the money is there, that is not a sale. All right. And I want to be super clear about that. And the reason I want to be super clear about that is because, I see people all the time, and I ask this sometimes to my clients, to my membership, to my community. I'll say, okay, how many sales are on your table this month? And they're like, yeah, well, I've got this client who's like a potential for a 5K, and I've got this client who's a potential for this, and da-da. So, if it all comes in, I'm going to make like 20K. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. I'm like, so that client who is your 5K potential, like, where are they? They said they were 100% yes. They're really in. They just need to sign their contract. They need to fill out their paperwork. They need to pay me. And I'm like, okay, how long ago was this? Oh, 2 weeks ago. Red flag. Right, okay, so why haven't they in 2 weeks managed to get around to signing the contract, paying your fee, doing the things? Oh, I don't know. Okay, that's where things like forecasting go wrong. Okay, and good salespeople, will forecast a good, better, best model. All right, so obviously they'll forecast a good, which is your basic. If I made this amount of revenue, I'd be okay, be all right. It would meet my minimum, and that would be okay. And then they have a better. If I met this particular sales target, I'd be kind of happy with that. I'd be happy. I'd be, maybe having a glass of celebratory prosecco at the end of the month. That'd be good. And then they have a best target. Okay, and that is if I met this target, I would be whipping my top off like a footballer on the field and, spraying champagne everywhere. And that's really the target you always kind of want to be aiming for, because, you always want to have that feeling of, I am going to pop the cork on the champers and I'm just going to have an absolute blast for that weekend. That's what I used to aim for in sales. And that's what I kind of approach my business with now, that mentality of that's how I want to feel about the sales I make every month. The important thing is that when you look at your forecasting and you look at these numbers, you say, okay, what deals do I currently have in the pipeline? What money potentially is on the table? Is it your good target, your better target, or your best target? And then you need to start closing them off. And the later in the month that this gets, the quicker it needs to happen. Okay. And that means that you get a no or a yes from the clients. And when we say no or yes, no means actually, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. And a yes is, here is the money in your bank account. All right. So please make sure that you close them with a clear yes or no. If they walk away and they're still a maybe, then, you haven't done the job correctly, and really they shouldn't be included in your forecast, because there's something going on for them where they're still not reassured, or where actually they're a polite no and they just don't know how to communicate that to you. So make sure that you are closing people off quickly. Now, this is where sales gets its bad reputation, because people assume that salespeople don't care, and that when they're kind of like, look, you need to be yes or a no, that they're pressuring you. The reality is that they want you to make the right decision for you 99% of the time. And the 1% of the time you're going to get salespeople who are gross and sleazy and just want the commission check. But 99% of the time they're like, look, we just want you to make a decision. The best decision for you, great. They don't. And I think this is the way that sometimes sales gets misrepresented, is that salespeople detach from the outcome. So when they're communicating that they're like, look, we don't really care what you choose. We just want to know what it is, so that we can go back to our boss and say, yeah, they're a yep, and that's fantastic, and let's put that on the board. Or actually they're a no, and I need to go out and find wherever else that revenue is going to come from. Okay, so that's where it gets misrepresented, because a lot of the time they don't communicate that well. They don't communicate that in a way that's warm and fuzzy and feels good to you. And so that's sometimes where the sales process can go downhill. So as an entrepreneur, when you're working with other business owners, or when you're working one-to-one, you need to really think about how are you communicating that in a way that makes the customer feel good, or the potential customer feel good, but also that gets them to that point of either, yes, I want to go ahead and do this, and how can I pay you? Or actually, no, this is the wrong decision for me right now. Thanks, but no thanks. And part of that is becoming detached from the outcome and saying to yourself, whatever they choose, it's not a reflection of me or a reflection on me as a person. And also accepting that you need them to come to a point that they make a decision, because otherwise your forecasting doesn't matter. You're not going to have the revenue in there, and you're not going to be able to continue running your business successfully. All right. And then the final thing that salespeople forget, and this is the pros, this is the amateurs, this is the everyone in between, they forget to make offers. They forget to actually sell, because so often we're so conscious that, oh my goodness, if I sell another thing this month, will people think I look sleazy? Will people think I'm just out for cash? Will people think I'm gross or icky or slimy? We forget to sell. We forget to say, hey, here's where you can buy my stuff. Here's how to make that easier. And a lot of people think that, funnels make it easier because you're kind of depersonalized. You're taken out of the process. So if somebody receives the email and they don't want to buy from you, you don't hear about it. So it's all good, and it doesn't make you feel bad. But honestly, it's really, really hugely, can I use any other words that are going to stress how important it is that you sell, that you make offers every single day, whether it's as part of your funnel, whether it's to your Facebook group, whether it's to your email list, whether it's to all of them at once, whether it's to one of them at a time, it doesn't matter. You need to be selling every single day. You need to be making offers. One, because it gets you into the habit of doing it. And two, because that's how your business is going to thrive. That's how your business is always going to sell every single day. It's how you're going to make money every single day. And I think, on the back of that, it's about tracking. Yes, you want to be selling every day, but also you want to be tracking what's making money. How many emails are you getting every day that are telling you someone just bought this, someone just bought that? Every single day I look at my And maybe this makes me a really sad person, but every single day I look at my account, my email account that processes, or where my PayPal things are sent to. And every day I look at my account where my Stripe payments are sent to. And every day I look at my account where like my Bax transfers and stuff are made and all that kind of thing. Every day I make money. Every single day. There hasn't been a day in, I don't know, maybe I'll have to check out that stat for you, but I think it's about 2 years, maybe 2.5, where I haven't made money every day. Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, late night, early mornings, during the day. There has not been a day in 2.5 years, and I can check the exact stat on that, but where I haven't made money. And the reason is not because I'm some ninja. I mean, maybe a little bit of that, okay? Let me take some of the credit and glory. But the main reason is because I go out there every day and I look for opportunities. I look for, how can I make money today? How can I make my business successful today? How can I make profit today? And asking myself those questions does not mean I don't care about my clients. It does not mean that I don't care about the people in my community. It doesn't make me sleazy or gross or slimy. It makes me a good business owner. And that's part of the place of stepping into, how does the business owner have to think about my business? And the business owner in my business has to think, Jess, you need to make money today. Where's that coming from? How's that going to happen? Who are you talking to? Where are you following up? What do you have in place? So start thinking about yourself as a business owner and saying to yourself, how is my business making money today? Where are the sales coming from today? How am I going to be profitable today? All right. So if you are stuck in your business right now and you're thinking, okay, my sales processes are not where they need to be, don't worry. The pros are not where they need to be either. Every day, a professional salesperson out there is forgetting the basics. They're forgetting to follow up. They're forgetting about new business development. They're forgetting about forecasting and accurate forecasting and tracking. And they're forgetting to make offers. So you are normal. All right. But it also means that you have the potential to change all of those things. So if you're not changing them already, if there are things that you are missing off this list, go out and do just one of them today and see how it changes your business tomorrow. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'll be back on Friday. We've got an especially exciting guest on Friday. So look out for Friday's episode in your iTunes, in your Stitcher account, wherever that is. And if you have enjoyed the episodes recently, please make sure you leave us a little review. It's handy for me to know how you're enjoying the episodes. And it's also handy for other people who are scouring iTunes for some sales advice to know that other people are finding them useful too. I'll see you in Friday's episode.